Now broadcasting from his hidden bunker and fully stocked bar, it is the Saturday Report with Colt Sebastian Taylor.
Thank you and welcome once again, my friends, to the Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor, adventurer, entrepreneur, and amateur seditious conspiracy consultant. Welcome to AWSM Radio, an independent digital-only radio station that plays today's best music, old school classics, along with a rotating cast of all-star DJs. AWSM Radio focuses on mainstream artists, independent artists, along with a variety of interesting talk and music shows throughout the day. All we do is entertain, inspire, and inform. And my friends, I want to engage with you. I want you to be part of the conversation, so you can find me on the Twitter, on the Rizzle, on the Cameo, on almost anywhere at Colt S. Taylor. You can subscribe to the podcast version of this show at anchor.fm/Colt S. Taylor. And of course, check out all my other adventures and random things at ColtSebastianTaylor.com. All right, folks, let's get started with this week's Saturday Report. First up this week, salmonella. No, I'm not talking about the spread you put on bagels. I'm talking about the bacteria that causes people to be sick. There is a salmonella outbreak ravaging the United States today. It's been going on for 12 months, and 44 people in 25 states have gotten sick from the salmonella outbreak, including 15 hospitalizations. Probably ask yourself, Colt, what food do I need to throw away? What vegetable do I need to avoid? What dummy in some food processing factory wasn't paying attention to what they're doing has infected stuff with salmonella? Well, friends, actually, this salmonella infection outbreak is coming from bearded dragons. Yes, the popular reptilian pet apparently is a whole host of salmonella bacteria inside of it. Comes out in its droppings, harmless to the lizard itself, but sickens people with salmonella poisoning. The CDC is suggesting that you do not, quote unquote, don't kiss or snuggle your bearded dragon, which apparently a lot of people have been doing because they're adorable little lizards, and then they get salmonella and salmonella infection, like same thing as food poisoning. Now, the CDC has interviewed a bunch of people, the ones that have been confirmed with salmonella, and they narrowed it down to these bearded dragons, and they took some samples and they tested it, and the salmonella inside these bearded dragons is very similar to the salmonella you would see in foodborne related things as well. So this has been going on since December 2020, and they have recorded a salmonella infection via bearded dragon every month since then. So they are suggesting that, it's nothing wrong with having a bearded dragon. If you have one, that's great, but if you handle it, wash your hands immediately. Anything that touches it should be washed. You should not eat or drink around it. And as much as you want to snuggle and kiss your bearded dragon, you probably shouldn't, because you have a better chance of getting salmonella. Now, usually people don't need to go to the hospital for salmonella. People just kind of get over it with an upset stomach, but that can hospitalize people. And those with weakened immune systems can get some pretty severe side effects. And because we live in a society that doesn't think vaccines are a thing, hospitals are at capacity in many places. And if you don't have to go to the hospital, it's best just not to go to the hospital. And by, petting your bearded dragon and then washing your hands afterwards, it's really the way to go. So don't kiss or snuggle it, because you could get sick. And there's a small chance you might have to go to the hospital, and this is not the time. This is the time to be preventing things going to the hospital. So you have the vaccine. I'm sure there's people out there that think that bearded dragons having salmonella is a big conspiracy. It's probably like 4 people. They probably have a website. They get together every Monday. But I assure you, the CDC is serious about this. If you have a bearded dragon, handle it carefully. Wear gloves. Clean everything that's in it or around it, and you'll protect yourself from salmonella. So I just think it's funny that the CDC has to say, hey, you have a bearded dragon? Don't snuggle it or kiss it, because it's getting people sick. Yeah, it's been getting people sick for a long time. Be great if you just, stop doing that. Moving along, blood. There's a blood crisis. And it's not just affecting vampires. The Red Cross is reporting that blood supplies are at dangerous lows across the country. Some Red Cross, areas are saying they're seeing 10 to 25% less blood available than what they usually do. To give blood, it's a very in-person event. Obviously, you can't just mail it in. I mean, you could, it just isn't very useful. Most people consider that some sort of serial killer stuff there. But, blood drives are in-person events. There's a lot of COVID-19 restrictions. There's been a lot of winter weather disrupting various blood drives across the country, and so blood supplies are low. The Red Cross estimates that at least in Ohio, that hospitals may not receive 25% of the blood products they need every day. Now, blood products are used all the time for transfusions and plasma and all sorts of things, so it really is needed. So the Red Cross is doing a national lottery, tying in with the Super Bowl. If you give blood, you'll be entered in a chance to win a ticket, a getaway to the Super Bowl in Los Angeles, and then you'll be automatically entered to win a home theater package and a $500 e-gift card. So if you have blood to spare, I'm saying if you have blood in jars in your room, if you do, you may want to call a therapist, because that's not where that needs to be. But if you're looking to give blood, find your nearest Red Cross, give blood, enter for a chance to win. I love contests, but I need to, I don't like needles, so I'm going to give you a better chance to win by not doing it. So do that, especially living in Ohio, because folks in Ohio, are a little concerned about the blood supply. So please go and do that. And if you win, and you won because you listened to this story, please send me a postcard, because I love postcards. We now go from the wintry weather of Ohio to the hot continent of Australia. For those who don't know how the Earth works, while it is winter up here in the north, it is now summer down there in the southern parts of the world. A special shout to my good friend Georgina in New Zealand, who listens every week, and I believe is the farthest person that I know who listens to the show. At least she says she does. She probably does. Anyways, across the pond from New Zealand and Australia recorded its hottest day on record at 50.7 degrees. Now, for all you science folks out there, that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Fortunately, I can calculate the difference in my head, totally not reading from something I wrote down earlier. But 50.7 degrees Celsius is the equivalent to 123.26 degrees Fahrenheit. Boy howdy, that's warm. That is really, 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 really warm. It was set in Onslow, Western Australia, on Thursday this week, and matched a record set in 1962 in South Australia. The areas around that area could see record-breaking temperatures again, not only yesterday, but through the weekend. So they're having quite a bit of a heat wave down there as well. In fact, it has gotten so hot there that the air conditioning in some office buildings have just stopped working. I mean, they just stop working after a while. They don't work so much on hot weather, and the way they're supposed to, but it gets to the point where they just can't keep up with the heat. So it is very, very hot down there. It's hard for folks in the northern hemisphere. Usually this time of year, there's holidays and Christmas and things like that. Down there, there's holidays and Christmas down there, but that's also like their summer break, basically, down there. So everyone is kind of on holiday, as they say, on holiday down there. But it is warm, so warm down there. So to all of my Australian and New Zealand listeners, I'm sure there's 30, 50, 80,000 people down there who listen. I'm sure of it. Stay warm, drink fluids, stay in the shade, avoid strenuous activity outside in the sun during the hottest parts of the day, and be safe and keep hydrated. And of course, there's nothing better than laying out on a lazy Australian summer day in the shade, listening to the Saturday Reports with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor. So I think that's pretty sure that's doctor recommended, if I had to guess. Staying in Australia, the Australia Open big tennis match is occurring this week, and tennis star Novak Djokovic is still in limbo. He kind of lied about his vaccination status got a visa. They got there. It says, "Oi, you vaccinated?" And he went, "No, I am not. I don't know if any of these accents are correct, but like, no, I am not vaccinated. I had COVID." And the Australian's like, "All right there. That's not good enough there, buddy. Time for you to get on out." And so he's been detained in Australia for the last few days. Won a court case, but there is still question whether or not he will be allowed to play. The health minister apparently has the personal power to deport anybody they want. Australia's immigration minister Alex Hawke has the personal power to kick anyone out of Australia they want to who isn't a citizen. So if I got down there and got into a fist fight with a kangaroo, Mr. Hawke there could say, "Oi, Red, time for you to get on out of here," and they could kick me out. So no word yet whether or not he'll be allowed to play. He's the defending champion, but he is very cavalier with his vaccination status. In fact, had COVID-19 and was seen walking around after the positive confirmation without a mask, so he's not really a health-conscious person, despite being a tennis guy. But in further news, because of the spike of COVID-19 cases in Australia, crowds will be limited to 50% of this event, and there will be people need to be spaced out at outdoor and indoor events, and there'll be improved ventilation. And this is kind of a last-minute change. Anyone who's already bought tickets, they'll still be honored. But if a match has not reached 50% capacity, then it will stop at 50%. So obviously the finale is probably all sold out. That'll be fine. So if you have tickets to that, don't worry, you'll be able to go. But you should definitely wear a mask because, boy howdy, things are spiking there in ye old Melbourne, Australia. Last checked in, 3 days out from the start of the tournament, there were, in Victoria, 37,000 cases of COVID, 953 people in the hospital, and 25 deaths recorded. So Australia has kind of locked down quite a bit since COVID started, but Omicron, that's my dog Willow next to me. She is very upset about this. Omicron has begun to nose its way in just a wee bit and start ticking up here right before the Australia Open. So we'll see what happens this weekend. I will have a report for you next weekend about how things turned out. We now go to space, where an asteroid estimated to be about a kilometer wide will fly past the Earth on January 18th. It will come within just over 1 million miles of our planet, moving at over 47,000 miles per hour, according to the NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies, which tracks potentially hazardous comets and asteroids that could collide with our planet. The approaching asteroid is known as 7482. Not quite catchy name. Was discovered in 1994. This will be the closest it passes Earth for the next 2 centuries. And the closest will be on January 18th at 4:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the East Coast. But it's not the largest that ever flew by. The largest asteroid that flew by real close to us was 3122 Florence, which flew by and missed the Earth on September 1st, 2017. It was estimated to be between 2.5 and 5.5 miles wide, and it'll be back again in about 25 years in September 2nd, 2057. This one will not be visible to the naked eye, but someone with a small telescope should be able to see it streak across the sky. Later this year, NASA is going to be testing some technology known as the DART mission, or the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. The spacecraft is aiming for an asteroid called Dimorphos, a small moon orbiting the near-Earth asteroid Diomedes. So it's going to crash into it to see if it can deflect it and to give it new motion, testing technology to hopefully deflect an asteroid in the future from crashing into the Earth by testing this technology now, see if they can work out the bugs. So the what's classified as a near-Earth object or asteroids or comets with orbits that place them within 30 million miles of Earth. Detecting the threat of near-Earth objects, or NEOs, that could potentially cause harm is the primary focus of NASA and other space organizations around the world. So NASA is not the only folks that look for these things. Other people do as well, and they got a whole list of them. And this one's getting close, but so far, so good. And then later this year, they're going to test out some technology that if something was going to hit Earth, they'll nudge it just a little bit off course, so it just darts by us. It doesn't actually hit anything on Earth. Unlike the Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence movie, which everyone died in the end. Spoilers alerts! Well, not everyone, but it did turn out too well. Turns out exactly how you thought it would. Folks, I want to talk to you about another deflection mission that I go on every week here, and that is deflecting your attention to our in-house DJ, DC. His show, DC Live in Effect, mixes it up every Friday night at 9 p.m., Sundays at 10 p.m. You do not want to miss out while he smashes it on the ones and twos, kicking the beats from South Florida every week. He's a fantastic DJ. He's all ours here on AWSM Radio, so if you are driving home late on Friday night, Sunday night, whatever, tune in to the app, listen to his music. You'll be treated with an audible delight from my good friend DC. So catch it, DC Live in Effect, Fridays at 9, Sundays at 10, right here on AWSM Radio. We now go to other parts of entertainment, the Oscars, which for the last 3 years have been run without a host. Apparently will have a host this year when it airs on March 27th, according to Craig Erwich, president of Hulu Originals and ABC Entertainment, announced that the Oscars would have a host for this year's ceremony. Now, it has gone without a host for the last 3 years. After, I believe, who was that guy? Kevin Hart, yes. Kevin Hart was supposed to host 3 years ago, but some past remarks popped up, and then he said he already apologized for them, so he was going to apologize again, so he pulled out, and they did not replace him at all. Past hosts include Jimmy Kimmel, which got some positive reviews, Chris Rock, Neil Patrick Harris, Ellen DeGeneres, Seth MacFarlane, Billy Crystal, James Franco, and Anne Hathaway hosted in 2011. I don't think James Franco will be hosting anytime soon. But they did not really get high marks about that anyways. Anyway, I think Billy Crystal and Steve Martin would be a great host for the Oscars. They are true and tried, fantastic hosts. I would say 3 hosts this year: Billy Crystal, Steve Martin, and Chris Rock. I think those are 3 hilarious, very funny, can get things going and moving hosts of the Oscars. I think that'd be great. I think that would work just fine. It was one time one of the most coveted hosting jobs in Hollywood. Some past hosts during the golden age of Hollywood include Johnny Carson and Bob Hope, but it became more of a thankless job over the years because people just critique it, kind of runs long, etc., etc. So the first year which they did not have the host, ratings actually went up than the previous year, and they decided to go off the host in 2020, and the ratings were about the same, but dipped a little bit. But 2021, which was a much more lower-key affair at Union Station, lost more than half its audience. I mean, 2021 wasn't really a good year for movies in Hollywood, as it were, or theaters, or anyone in the entertainment industry whatsoever. But they're thinking to bring back a host. No announcement yet. Lots of guessing about who it would be. People are humorously suggesting Pete Davidson because he's everywhere these days. I don't know if he'd be a good host. I don't know if they could get him to concentrate for 5 hours and whatnot. I'm sure he'll be okay. I watched his Miley Cyrus New Year's Eve thing with him and Miley Cyrus. I thought it was okay. It was okay. It was all right. But it was like, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it wasn't that long. So I mean, we all love Pete Davidson, but I don't know if he's quite right for the Oscars. Maybe that makes me sound old. It might. But anyways, you'll find out soon who the host is, and then you can watch the Oscars live as a broadcast on ABC and outlets from around the world on Sunday, March 27th 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. The ceremony will return to its usual place, the Dolby Theater at Hollywood and Highland Center in Hollywood. After last year, they went to a more open air area because of COVID stuff. But they're back to their own place. I'm sure everyone will be vaccinated or be wearing masks. Maybe both. Who knows? But we'll see who the host is. Just so the Oscars know, I am also available to host the Oscars. I, Colt Sebastian Taylor, this dulcet voice, streaking out across the land. I think I'd be the perfect host for the Oscars. I just move it along, go, all right, next one, let's go. Let's get out of here in 40 minutes, folks. I don't do musical numbers. I'll let Neil Patrick Harris do that. I'll just bring him up, he'll do his thing, sit back down. Moving along in the world of entertainment and real estate, the home used in A Nightmare on Elm Street was sold for just under $3 million this week. Officially $2,980,000. I'm sure there's a commission there. It was the house used the 1984 Wes Craven horror classic A Nightmare on Elm Street. Despite this horror movie being filmed there, it's actually a very nice house. 3 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, with a pool and a guest bedroom. Not too shabby, I say. It's known as a beautiful Dutch colonial with a modern twist, according to the Realtor.com listing. It's just off of Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, a few blocks from the legendary Chateau Marmont Hotel, and there's a Whole Foods nearby. Not too shabby, right? It went up for sale last October, a week before Halloween. Initially asked for $3.5 million, but they talked them down to $2.98 million. This area of California is very popular for Hollywood filming because the lack of palm trees in the area. So very much looks like a small town USA feeling because it's just, regular trees and not much in the way of, like typical California settings. Of course, home prices have shot up 19% of last year. My secret bunker has gone up quite well because of the shortage in the housing market due to, basically people not being able to build houses and then people leaving the cities to go in the rural areas to escape COVID-19. Now the reverse is happening. Rent prices are shooting up in the cities, etc., etc., etc. But there is also another nice little entertainment note here. The house, according to NPR's Tyne Lee, who reported last fall, quote, "The iconic house isn't just a place of horror, it is also the location of Bo Burnham's Inside, a solo musical comedy special produced during the height of the pandemic and a possible Grammy contender." I've watched pieces of this. It's very good. Bo Burnham is a very humorous singer. I like it very, very much. Some of his songs are used during TikToks. TikTok filming. Oh, what do you call short TikToks? Videos? TikTok videos? I don't know. I'm not on TikTok. I should be, but I'm not. I got too much to do. Anyways, that house sold this week for just under $3 million, so hopefully whoever takes it over will not have nightmares or feel the need to compose a solo comedy music special. They'll just have friends over, the pool, and the guest house. We now head to the West Coast, to the East Coast, to literally 45 minutes from where I am. A medical helicopter crashed this week in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. It was flying from Maryland to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, better known as CHOP, world-renowned children's hospital in the area with buildings in Philadelphia, and I think they just expanded their campus out into the King of Prussia area. Very well-renowned hospital for children, treating a whole bunch of different things. Well, anyways, a medical helicopter, was traveling from Maryland to Philadelphia with an infant on board and crashed into Upper Darby. Everyone walked away with minor injuries. I think the pilot is a little bit more serious, but everyone's in stable condition. The infant is fine. The nurse and the doctor on board fine. They are all able to get out and walk away from this helicopter crash. Apparently, it was able to land, lost its blades, crashed, did not damage any cars, did not damage any telephone poles, did not damage any buildings, kind of brushed up against the side of a church, just sort of shattered and landed. The FAA and other officials are calling it a miracle that no one was more seriously hurt or died in the crash. It was, there's pictures like moments after the crash of people climbing out and someone running away with the baby wrapped up in a blanket and whatnot. But everyone was okay. Everyone is expected to survive without, just brief stints in the hospital. The FAA obviously is investigating because that's their job. They think it probably was mechanical failure at some point, but saluted the pilot for safely landing or crash landing the helicopter without hurting anyone on the ground or in the helicopter. He's being called Delco Sully, after Sully, the pilot who landed the plane in the river almost a decade ago, managed to land it without, damaging a whole lot of stuff or catching on fire. Just set that thing down and everyone survived. You usually don't hear good news. You usually don't hear good news about helicopter crashes. The Upper Darby Police Superintendent, Timothy Bernhardt, commented that the fact that no injuries appeared to be life-threatening, quote, "It's a miracle, an absolute miracle. I can't wait to meet this gentleman and shake his hand for getting this helicopter down the way that he did." So, that is some amazing stuff. Whew. Helicopter crashes, they usually don't end up pretty well, but this one did. So thank goodness for that. And hopefully, whatever reason that infant was going to the children's hospital, he or she will be getting better, and there'll be a heck of a story that they'll be able to tell for show and tell in first grade that I was in a helicopter crash and I didn't remember it. Moving along, and in some sad news this week, comedian Bob Saget passed away unexpectedly in Florida. Bob Saget, stand-up comedian, best known for Danny Tanner in Full House from 1987 to 1995, and in its Netflix sequel, Fuller House, from 2016 and 2020. He was also the host of America's Funny Home Videos, and he was the narrator in the popular series How I Met Your Mother, which ran from 2005 to 2014. Never seen, but he played the older narrator voice of Ted Mosby during that show. He was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, right around the corner from where I am. He's very much known in this area as well. I know he was from the Philadelphia area. And despite being a family-friendly show on Full House, he's actually a very dirty comedian, very, very funny. He did a movie called The Aristocrats where he went around to all his comedian friends and they told the dirtiest joke that they know. Full House, as you may remember, had quite a very, very good cast. John Stamos, Dave Coulier, Candace Cameron, as well as Mary-Kate Nash and Ashley Olsen, the Olsen twins, who have pretty much left acting. They're more from a fashion empire now than anything else. They released a statement expressing sadness about his passing, as well as Dave Coulier. Everyone is very just shocked to hear that he passed away. Now, he apparently passed away in his sleep. They don't have any sort of foul play or drugs or alcohol. Might have been a heart issue. They're doing an autopsy to figure out how exactly he passed away. And just sort of all sorts of comedians and actors pouring in tributes about what a very, very nice, fantastic person he was. And then, in fact, John Mayer, yes, the singer, John Mayer and Jeff Ross, apparently were very good friends with him, and they had the sad duty of having to go to the LA airport to pick up his car from the airport and drive it back to his house. And they went on Instagram Live for about 30 minutes, driving through LA, talking about their friend Bob Saget. I mean, I didn't watch it. That stuff really hits me hard. So I just don't. Glad that they did. I'm sure it helped, but that's just too sad for me. So the great Bob Saget, host of America's Funniest Home Videos, Full House, great comedian, who was saying he was loving getting back up to stand up, really looking forward to the future. Unexpectedly passed away this week at the age of, I believe, 65? I'll say 65. 65, 68. I don't know. I don't have the number right now, but Not very old. Passed away entirely too soon before his time, unfortunately. So I'd highly recommend, friends, for you to watch the full episodes. He also, I have to say, a very good Norm Macdonald. He was good friends with Norm Macdonald, who passed away last year unexpectedly. Much to my sadness. He directed a great Norm Macdonald movie called Dirty Work, which he was the director. He was the director of Dirty Work. It's not like a great movie, but you know what? It's a pretty good movie. It's based off of a short story by Ronald Dahl called Vengeance is Mine, Inc. It's about a guy who gets paid to get back at other people. Features, check out this cast. This cast is pretty good for the time. Norm Macdonald, Artie Lang, Jack Warden, Taylor Howard, a young Chris Farley, Christopher McDonald, usually bad guy, Chevy Chase, also making cameo appearances throughout the movie. Okay, listen to this. Don Rickles, Rebecca Romaine, John Goodman, Adam Sandler, Gary Coleman, George Trudeau, Ken Norton, David Kocher, Jim Downey, Fred Wolf, Kevin Farley, and a few other folks. Some of those names you know, some you don't. It's actually not a stupendous movie, but a pretty good movie if you are a fan of Bob Saget and Norm Macdonald. Highly recommend you checking out this week, due to honor those two fantastic comedians. Speaking of entertainment, if you need to be entertained and amused and just showered with music and interesting things during your evening commute home, well, you, my friends, need to listen to the Rock Sessions, hosted by the lovely, fantastic, beautiful Rocks. The Rock Sessions is our drive time show here on AWSM Radio, featuring the hottest music on the charts, along with some other surprises in between. She will make it rock style, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Listen to The Rock Sessions right here on AWSM Radio. Moving along, folks, there could be a danger in your home right now and you don't even know it's there. Whatever you do, don't panic. If you look at it, it could endanger you. If you don't look at it, you also may be in danger. Of course, I'm talking about decades-old home elevators. I'm sure everyone has an elevator in their house. I mean, who doesn't? I mean, what's the point of being hoity-toity and at the top of your game and being in the upper 1% if you don't have an elevator in your house? Yes, I could walk up 3 flights of stairs myself, but why not let Thomas Edison and his wonderful thing called electricity pull me from point A to point B? Well, anyways, actually it's a danger to children. 3 of the most popular residential elevator companies are issuing recalls. Not so much that you have to replace your elevator, but they are sending out space guards. The concern is that the gap between an elevator and the floor, there's always like a little bit of a gap there. There's a concern that children could get, their feet or hands stuck in it, and then if the elevator closes and moves, it doesn't detect something there obstructing the way, and it will injure said child. Apparently one child died in July on an unrelated residential elevator accident, not related to this, but the concern is that many of these elevators, they're inspected, but they don't go through the normal upgrades that professional or commercial building elevators do. So these companies are voluntarily issuing a recall, sending out kits to be installed on the floors to sort of narrow that gap between the floors and the elevators as well. They don't want people to have fractured bones or skulls, or have lifelong industries. They just want to do that. In fact, Otis, very famous elevator company, issued a similar recall last December, December 2020, when they had similar concerns about their elevators as well. They sent inspectors out to do free upgrades, install space guards where needed to make sure that these elevators are safe. So these elevator companies are they're be proactive and taking care of this. They're asking people to have home elevators to contact their company that installed them, and there's probably a free kit, or they'll send someone out for free to inspect it, make sure there are any dangers, and fix it. I mean, it's a very inexpensive fix. Just put some plastic safeguards in there, adhere them to the floors, and then no more problems. According to the Nancy Coles, the executive group of Kids in Danger, she said that the hazardous gap in residential elevators impact both families with elevators in their home as well as unsuspecting vacationers. Quote unquote, whether you own a home that has an elevator or you rent a vacation home with one, do not use it or allow access until the retrofit has been safe. Don't let unsupervised children use the elevator. This is a decades-old hazard that has an easy and inexpensive fix. So, to all of my fans out there who have home elevators, be careful. Don't get anything stuck in that gap there. Mind the gap. Mind the gap. Moving along to the job sector, as you know, there is a critical labor shortage in the United States. A lot of people say, hey, people just don't want to work, they want to stay home and collect their unemployment. Well, you know, maybe you can pay $7 an hour to deal with people who don't wear a mask because they think that the guy from Fear Factor has a better medical advice than actual doctors. May not be worth someone $7 an hour. But I'm not talking about folks working at McDonald's or Arby's. No, astronauts. Right now, there's only about 44 of them. The most that NASA had was in 2000. There's 150 astronauts. But now that space shuttle missions have now been done for over a decade now, that amount has now gone down to 44. And right now, they're just sending people to the International Space Station. But if they're going back to the moon and eventually put people on Mars, they're going to need more than 44 astronauts. And so they're trying to train them and get them ready to go quickly because they're going to need them for these future missions. Basically, the lack of space shuttle missions means there's less opportunities for people to go up into space, so there's a little bit less interest in it. But also, they're also doing new technology. You can't just swap out astronauts all willy-nilly. Some astronauts are good at some things, and some astronauts are good at other things. You need to put together a crew, each with their specialties and whatnot, and they're not having a whole lot of luck recruiting new astronauts, so they're kind of revamping their system. They're offering a little bit more money. It takes about 18 to 24 months to train to be an astronaut on the space station. Now, friends, if you're suffering a shortage of sports, well, don't worry, because I have got you covered here, because I'm going to tell you about a show on AWSM Radio, Married to the Game. It's our sports show, broadcast every Wednesday, 9 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time, here on AWSM Radio, featuring Brian, Joe, and Mac Daddy. They're going to bring their analyze games, their insights, and expertise to all things games to the table. And what kind of sports show would be without a little trash talking in between? So tune in to catch up on all things sports. Follow these folks on Instagram. Joe at Turn Up the Jets, Nick at the Mac Daddy Ryan Show, Brian at bolstered_up_sports, and then the show itself, Married to the Game, MTTG Radio, all on Instagram. So, want your weekly dose of sports? Listen to Married to the Game, Wednesdays at 9 p.m., right here on AWSM Radio. Well, my friends, that just about wraps up this week's Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Remember, you can find me on the Twitter, on the Rizzle, on the Instagram, on the Cameo, and on Anchor.fm at Colt S. Taylor. You can subscribe to the podcast version of this show, which publishes Sunday afternoons after the rebroadcast on Sunday. So if you're not available to hear me live on Saturday, you can catch up with last week's show whenever you like on your preferred podcasting device. I am also part of another podcast of a Dungeons & Dragons game. I'm very good at that too, providing some voices to that. So if you like that sort of stuff, you can listen to that too. And Mustang D&D, also on Anchor.fm. I'll have a link on my website. At ColtSebastianTaylor.com. Follow that for all things Colt Sebastian Taylor. Well, my friends, until next week, I am, of course, your friend, Colt Sebastian Taylor, and I'll see you later.